What is a dashboard? A dashboard is one or more pages in which key metrics are presented and the user can interact with them. So the user can click on slicers and the data will change. We have an example from Microsoft. This is how it will look like, and this is the file. So let's go ahead and download the file. Click on the leftmost worksheet, sales data. And on the right side, you have steps with specific instructions. For example, step 1, we are supposed to create a table. So then you go where you have the data, insert table. It's already formatted, so in step 2, you are supposed to create a pivot table, and it gives you instructions how to do it. Alright, so you just click where you have the data, insert pivot table. But you already have it done, and it's right here. In this step, you can see the category in the rows, and then you see sales brought twice in the values. The first field will be default, the sum, and the second field you would go to show values as, and you would show percent of grand total. In the next step, you are supposed to create copies of your pivot table, but first it should look properly. So you see it here and you see it right there. So what's the difference? It has a design, so always go back to design and choose a style that you want. And then if you notice, it's also sorted. It says over here, it's sorted largest to smallest by sale. So how to do that? You would just right click on the numbers and you would sort largest to smallest. Okay, and once you have it done, you can make a copy of it. And then what do you need to change? You see this one, instead of category, you would use product. So I can unselect that one and I can use the product name. If you notice over here, it explains the data filter top 10. So the top 10 filter is under the value filters top 10. And if you want top 1, you would just change the number here, or top 5, or whatever you need. And that would be by sales. Okay, so now you can see the same one. Okay, and you just continue so with the other two. In the next step, you're going to create pivot charts, and it shows you how to do it. So suppose you are in the first pivot table here, and you would go to Analyze, and you would go to Pivot Chart. And then I'm just looking here, we are supposed to create a combo. And then is this option, the last one, and it shows the secondary axis would be for the percent total, so it should be plotted there. I see the image, looks good. Okay, so that's that, and then you can resize it, and move it. When you have all your charts done, notice what happens if I resize my columns. The charts will stretch, and it's something I do not want. So when you're done and you have your dashboard, you can use Control to select all your charts, and then you can go to the format, and under the size here I use the launcher arrow, and there is an option, don't move or size with cells. And once you apply that option, then you can now go here and you see the charts won't resize with cells, which is really cool. In the next step, you're going to add slicers and timeline. The timeline is the slicer for the day. To add slicer, it tells you how to do it. Another way to do it would be, for example, I need a slicer for category. Right click and just add as a slicer. And then you would format your slicers and you would position them how you want. And finally, what's very important is for each of the slicers, you would like to go to report connections and to actually connect them to all 4 pivot tables. And what it means is that if I make a selection, for example, I select baked goods and maybe candy, and then what happens, all the pivot tables are now filtered by my category here. So that's really cool. But that's what you need to do. You have to report connections and you have to connect to all those pivot tables. This is the final dashboard. So as you saw before, and what's more in here, we're going to learn about maps in chapter 7. It's very easy actually. You just go insert and then you go map and you create a map from the data, and you need to have the data with geographic information. So in our case, if we go to the sales data, that geographic information would be the city, state, and then you have some numbers you want to put on the map. So that's the selection here. all those three columns, and then you go insert, and then you go maps, and then you just click on that. So it's very easy. But for right now, when you're done with all your calculations, you want to go to view, and you want to uncheck the grid lines and headings. You see how it looks? So if you uncheck those, it looks much cleaner. But right now I'm going to check them because I want to show you this here. So it shows me the top sales representative, and that's actually a formula. It's K4. So let's see what we actually have in K4. Now look, we have a hidden pivot table, and that's the sales representative. It's a top one. You see it over there? So that's the best sales representative, and that's the number of total sales. So you can always do these kind of tricks, and you can link to those. And then we have, what is this top sales? That's actually, if you move it out, that's just a shape. So how to create a shape? You go insert shapes, and from here you can play with any shapes you want, and you go to formatting and so on. And what is this thing over here? This is a text box, or we can also use a shape. So insert shape, and you just type in whatever you want to type in. Okay, so they're placed nicely, so they look cool. And you can have calculations from other worksheets if you want. You can even have from other files. Okay, so let's move those things back. Same idea here. You have shapes and text boxes, but just be careful, because if you see in this example, they actually cover beverages. You don't really want to do that. Now you might wonder, how is it possible to have the text and the shape combined? You see how I can move them separately? To do that, you would click on both of them. So you would use Control, and then you would go to group them. Okay, so they are already grouped. I need to ungroup them. And if you group them, then you can move it as one shape, and you can place it how you want. Again, this one was not perfect. It doesn't need to cover beverages. You see, it was like that. So you need to resize this one. Here we have a spark line. If you right click it and go to see the location of the data, you see that it's in month sales over here. So that's the location, and it goes into that box. So you can also use spark lines.